Welcome to a football show Monday edition, Titans minicamp edition. That is Paul Kuharsky. I am Braden Gall, pay for good journalism. PaulKuharsky.com, brought to you, of course, by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Good afternoon, PK. How are you?
Hello. I'm well. Not enjoying the weather, but we'll get on. Had a couple of rain outs down in Hoover, Alabama. Only got in 3 out of 5. Disappointed. We were going to play at Rickwood Field. Simon was going to play at Rickwood Field on Sunday and got washed out.
Oh, we didn't get a chance to? That would have been I feel like that'd be a very cool thing to do.
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
That's a bummer. Sorry to hear that, man, but good to have you back. Of course, minicamp starts up tomorrow. Titans will practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We will have access to most of that practice as the media will be there and available, and we'll get kind of look ahead at what we can learn. I'm curious what we expect out of second-year players. I'm curious. One of the things I really enjoy trying to work through, PK, because you've seen so many of these, is like, what are the mechanisms, what are the things that you see and that you think fans should follow and track that sort of indicate whether or not the hype is real around somebody, right? Like, there's little tricks. And I know you've been big on, like, follow the money on some of this stuff, right? The way the Titans invest in a particular player can tell you a lot about how they view him. So I want to kind of work through the list and get people prepared. It applies to training camp. It applies to rookie camp. It applies to mini camp this week. So I want to work through some of those. I'm always concerned when, independently of conversation with you, you have come up with or settled on or kind of am working through an idea. I do the same thing, and I did not speak to you last Tuesday at practice. And I came up with one of the same identical feelings. We talked about it on Thursday's show, myself and Nick Suss. So I know you published your story about this before we did our show. So I know we both came to it on our own, which maybe Titans fans should be terrified of. So we'll get to that.
I don't even know what that is, so it'll be interesting when we get to
it. Coming up in just a second. I know James Foster had a great series on your website about Brownlee, J.C. Latham, and T'Vondre Sweat. What did we learn about that process? I am fascinated with Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. I don't know what the future holds for him. We'll see. And then there's some free agents or some players that are getting cut around the league. Maybe Titans should be interested in all of that. So a lot of stuff to do. If you want to jump into the comments, please do so. Trevor and Eddie, good to see you guys already. Eddie asking about Jermaine Pratt, the linebacker out of Cincinnati, who was cut, I believe, in the last couple of hours. Brian Callahan, obviously, with a lot of personal relationship there with him during his time and a position of need potentially. So we'll get into a lot of things today. Sinkers Beverages. Make sure you search Uber Eats, Sinkers Beverages, and they will deliver the booze directly to your house. Obviously, they will do the driving, so you can do the drinking. Great selection, in crowd, great allocation, great customer appreciation group. So make sure you sign up for that. And big party coming soon this summer, PK. Big party coming. So just stay tuned for that.
Great.
Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, not open today. It's not open today.
Sad.
It's open Wednesdays through Sundays, not Mondays and Tuesdays.
You have to wait all the way till Wednesday.
All right, so you wrote this article. I did not see it. Now, look, I normally read PK.com every day. I did not see this article, but I was kind of workshopping this feeling that I was getting after watching practice. And it's, there's some logic to it, and some of it's just an instinct in the feel, and some of it's maybe wishful thinking. I don't know. But Nick and I talked about this on Thursday's show about I think Calvin Ridley could have one of the best seasons of his career, because I think he runs the routes, and I think he has the skill that Cam Ward is capable of maximizing to some degree. And so some of that was, it looks like Cam Ward is very comfortable over the middle in practice. Again, it's just a couple of days in June. I'm not trying to go crazy here, but he looks more comfortable there. It looks like Calvin Ridley has a set of skills that Cam Ward has never played with before, which could be really tantalizing and exciting for people if it is maximized. And it seems like you kind of have come to something similar. So work me through your expectation. And even people in the comment section on Thursday were like, Braden, the fact that you are optimistic about something is concerning.
Well, also, like, things unfolded in a chronological way that was good for them. So I don't know if I write the story the same way. Like, this is against air. It's a deep ball early, and he throws it perfectly, and Ridley runs onto it perfectly and catches it. I don't know precisely where, inside the 10-yard line, crosses into the end zone perfectly. And I just thought, well, you didn't see a lot of those easy, perfect balls from Levis to Ridley at this stage last season. It was so much off rhythm, deep stuff. But later in the practice and more meaningful times of the practice, he threw one that was behind. Let's go in order. Three balls on 3rd and 10. Ward moved a little bit to the right. I think hit DK short. I don't know if he would have got a first down or not. Threw deep left for Ridley and overthrew him. Threw deep left for Prochet, who dove and probably should have caught it, though it was a little bit long. So not a great sequence. So if I saw those two Ridley things first, I might have said, well, kind of same old thing, not quite in sync. But I saw that first one and I said, well, it looks like that, so I saw that and I said, well, there's some promise there. And then, but still some work to do.
Yeah.
But obviously things were really bad with Levis for a long time. And those first 6 games, I mean, if you look at Ridley, he caught a third of the passes thrown his direction in the first 6 games, 183 yards in a season that wound up with 10-17.
Yeah.
So if he could just start at the same pace that he had for the remainder of the year, he'd have, a much better season. He was gushing about Ward. You hate to read into something he's saying nice about the new guy, which might be just being excited about the new guy. Yeah. It's hard not to read some negativity about Levis into that for me. And I thought Ridley was, at least 50% part guilty in the problems with Levis. And we've talked about Ridley. He has some problems still. It's not going to be a clear number 1 receiver by any means. He's not upper echelon, feels ghosts sometimes and weird stuff like that. But like you're saying, I think he is primed to fit in well with what Cam Ward does well.
It's funny. Maybe there's probably, I don't know if fans probably wouldn't care about some sort of like media reporter observational psychology about what you see at practice and what translates to the games and to the future. But the 3 throws that stuck in my head that made me think about this for 2 days last week was Jackson was on the right in the slot and he goes on this deep crossing route and all this stuff was 3rd down. He goes on the deep crossing route, kind of a deep drag, and one of the better throws Cam Ward makes the entire time. Then Calvin Ridley, he hits him on kind of a deep middle drag. Then he hits Colton Dowell on kind of a deep middle drag, and I'm just going, he's and the ball seems to be tighter when he throws it in that area of the field.
I'd agree with that. He's very good in the middle of the field. I haven't seen a lot of sideliney stuff. I feel like the proportion.
He's very like it's when he winds up and really puts extra on it that it runs tighter. Now again with Ridley, it's always like on the back shoulder when he's crossing and like not in a good way, but that's only because Ridley is faster and more talented than anyone he has ever played with at that route in particular. So I keep thinking like, look, I know Ridley is outside receiver, but he gets used a lot and he's very good at running away from defensive backs, especially you get him into man coverage. He can plant out of a break and his separation ability is special. And Cam Ward, if he has the ability to hit you on the run over the middle because he's comfortable there, that could be a really dangerous thing for the Titans offense to deploy. And so that's where this came from for me. It was like, oh, he looks a little bit more comfortable over the middle. That's an area that Ridley probably could be used more. And if he's excited about that opportunity, maybe that's where you get best version of Ridley. And I think his best season, I don't have it in front of me, I want to say was like 90 catches for like 1,300.
Yeah, that's about right.
And I think 80 to 85 catches for 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns is totally expected. I think that's okay to expect that, especially for a team that could be trailing a lot in second halves.
Let's go a little further on the middle of the field. Now, I'm a lousy memory guy, but I feel like he was much more a perimeter guy last year. I feel like Levis is more a perimeter guy, right? Levis at his best is throwing deep balls to the outside. That's where his home runs were mostly. Tell me if that feels right to you. And Ridley, I feel like was running a lot of stuff either up the sidelines or to the sideline.
And he ran a lot of 8, 10, 12, 14-yard out routes, which I still think is one of his best routes, because if you sell the go and the cornerback's hips turn and he starts to bail, you plant and get to the corner, they can't cover him in that situation. And frankly, I think that's an easier – I know people think like opposite hash requires more arm strength, and it does. but it is a little bit easier of a read. You're cutting off half of the field. You don't have to read that half. You can't be attacked from both sides. I think throwing over the middle is more complicated. It's more about timing and accuracy. I think you can be a little less accurate and a little off time on the outside. I just think if Levis's biggest problem was timing and accuracy, that's going to hurt all of those reads in the middle of the field. And I don't want to speak out of turn here. I have to go back and look at like Cam Ward's his chart, his spray chart. I'd have to go check that to confirm. I don't have all 580 throws or whatever off the top of my head, so I don't want to speak out of turn on that. But I think in college he's kind of all over the place. He can kind of go where he wants to go with it. It's just in 2 days of practice. That's all we got here, and I'm going to be interested to see what these 3 days look like relative to that one thing. But most importantly, this is, again, it's more about the fact that you came to it. I respect your work, and I came to it. I did not
respect your work.
I definitely respect my work. at times, depending on what mood my wife's in. If two folks who are not normally prone to gushing and optimism about stuff come to something independent of each other, I feel some confirmation bias creeping in, So thank you. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, likewise. And look, he also has to be good if they're going to be good. So, I mean, that's not us rooting for it by any means, but they know that. And so I think, I don't know if you were in on listening to him or maybe read what he said, but I kind of asked him about that connection. He said, I just got to basically I've got to get it done. Now, I don't know if that's eye-opening for him, and how much of a self-reflective guy he is. I think there's a little bit of that in him. I also think he can be a little flip about stuff. But I think he knows, those first 6 games last year, he was part of digging them into a big hole.
Yeah.
And that he's expected to do more, and that his rep is what it is. And if he wants a rep that's bigger, he's got to do more. And that Cam Ward's rep is tied to him, and he's listening to Cam Ward. Cam Ward's a hyper, right? Cam Ward's calling him one of the 3 best receivers in the league, if not the best. Well, I mean,
on a video game,
no. I mean, I tend to. I don't know the necessity of it, but that's the approach Cam Ward's going to take. He's going to rave about his people, and so be it. And maybe that'll motivate. I'm not saying Calvin Ridley needs some huge motivation, but when you hear your quarterback talking about you like that, maybe you feel a little bit more like you want to go out and show it to be true, even though it's not.
Barton says he also had a stud tight end to rely on over the middle, Elijah Arroyo, and a very dependable, one of the most productive slot receivers in college receivers as well.
No, I mean, I think it absolutely was considered one of his strengths coming out, is that he knew how to operate in the middle of the field.
C. Rich says, I always felt Mariota's shortcomings were his inability to consistently throw to the sideline. Is that a concern with Ward? Number one, it's not a concern for me right now. I don't have – these are all sort of gut instincts and intuitions. Mariota just didn't have a huge arm. He didn't have a huge – he's not a Matthew Stafford type of player. So I just don't know if we know where Cam Ward is.
I think we're saying that we know that he was good in the middle of the field, and he's been good in the middle of the field here. We're not saying he's not good at throwing outside.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Would you have any expectations? When I say, hey, minicamp, is it more about access to players we have not had access to in terms of L'Jarius Sneed, Jeff Simmons? Is it more interesting that way, or is it more interesting to see 3 days of practice? I think it's much smarter to analyze things when you can see them back to back. You could see consistency and all that kind of stuff. Where are you at on how to watch and look ahead to these 3 days of practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the biggest thing is seeing a lot of Ward in a short span of time. You compare today to yesterday, and then to tomorrow. That's the biggest thing. Get a little bit more of a sense of rotations. We're going to talk here a little bit about inside linebackers, see a little bit more of how they're used and deployed. And still, that doesn't mean that much because of them getting into pads and things like that. Will Zeitler be out there? That's a curiosity to me. Will Simmons be out? Simmons is going to be there. Will Simmons be on the field? I suspect so. I'd expect he's in fantastic shape and has done everything. You throw him right back out there. What do Simmons and Snead have to say if they talk, which I think they'd be very wise to, about their off-field situations? I'm eager to hear from Zeitler talking to people. He'd be number one on my list. I've wanted to talk to him since the day they signed him, and it's been a long time since that. I think the guy's I'm imagining him as a great leadership guy on this team, but I don't know what his voice sounds like, even. And if they get him on the field, they talked about really easing him in, and maybe he's nursing something and they haven't been totally forthcoming with that, and they're not obligated to. But if they plug him into the lineup, then we can really kind of see that we're not allowed to really say the pecking order on the offensive line, which I'm curious about.
Yeah, and it's I know did you compare him to Mawai? I mean, he's not a Hall of Famer, but like you get a player a little bit later in their career, and if you look at this offensive line over the last, let's say, I don't know, probably since Lawan or Conklin, just purely based on that person's career, there's not a better player than Kevin Zeitler.
No, it's lacked. Brunskill kind of had that role. It doesn't have that pedigree,
right?
By any means, and so I think it's significant. I mean, I don't remember who Jake Scott played with, but even a guy like Jake Scott, who didn't have Zeitler's stripes by any means, but he had played good offensive line on a line that protected Peyton Manning. Came in with some stripes. And even if he was second on that line in terms of leadership, brought something from the outside that was meaningful. I think he's going to be a key guy. I really do.
I agree.
And I hope for their sake, though I know they've got contingency plans, I hope he's a guy they wind up wanting to re-sign after this year if his body holds up and if he's still playing at a high level.
Go back real quickly here to Team Ramrod saying the weakest part of Cam's game was definitely throwing deep outside, and I would argue that is the most difficult throw to make.
But yeah, it's probably it's the weakest part of a lot of guys' game.
Right. Even the guy, like if you are good at everything, that should still be the lowest completion percentage you have. Now, I will say if you go back and think of the misses by Cam Ward in college, it is when he loses sort of the footwork thing and is sort of floating. And then tries to take a deep shot down the field and is a little inaccurate down the field. I think that is, but again, I think that's a lot of young quarterbacks. So I agree with Zeitler. It'd be interesting to see what Simmons and Snead do. What do they do on the field? How are they off the field? I don't know. What else do you? I want to get to some of the youngest players and how you decide whether or not hype is kind of real or not around young players. But I'm curious if there's anything else in particular, unless we can save linebacker, I guess, unless you want to get into that now.
How I determine if the hype is real on young players is largely where the standing is in where they play. I wrote about Jamari Harris. I think Jamari Harris right now, and this is not a big deal, a snapshot on Monday, June 9th, right? The snapshot on Monday, June 9th often proves absolutely irrelevant come the first week of September.
But it's June 9th, so we got to go on today.
It's what we have to go on right now, right?
Yeah.
And so Jay Harris right now, to me, they like better than M. Harris, who they drafted in the 6th round. That's my instinctive feeling based on what I'm watching. And then I talked to him a little bit, but I talked to Odin, the new cornerback coach, passing game coordinator on defense. And he said, this guy's a balcony level thinker. He's not a first four flinker. That's a great line. Yeah. Now, I don't know Odin well, right? I had a fun introduction with him. I told him about myself a little bit. He said, I ought to be interviewing you if you've been covering this team since 96, which, of course, that guy buttered me up, so I now love him. But smart man, right? Knows how to play the game. Yeah. But I don't know if he's going to say that about a bunch of guys or if he said it specifically about this guy. But this guy caught my attention for where he was playing. I didn't see him do anything fantastic. He's not got great speed. I know he got about $234,000 as a guarantee coming in which I think is $10,000 less than the guy who got the most. And he's one of 3 or 4 guys that got that kind of money.
Yeah.
Which certainly, if you prorate it, is better than Marcus Harris gets for a 4-year deal. He gets it for a 3-year deal. And these guys, if they're cut, they wind up at least on somebody else's practice squad, right? And there are offsets that the Titans don't have to swallow all of this guaranteed money.
Yeah.
And they think at the very least, these guys are going to wind up on their practice squad. But that's the guy so far that I look at and say, based on where he's playing, this is with Snead out, right? And McCreary, this last practice wasn't out there really. But
he wasn't out there 2 weeks ago either.
Yeah, this guy didn't really factor into the slot for me.
No, he did not.
I think, something there early for this guy. Now, he's not fast, but I think he's got this balcony level thinking means he sees things and he knows where to be, and he's picked up stuff early. Now, it's completely possible that other people catch up to him, right? And he's just a really fast learner. And once everybody else catches up to him, the playing field levels out. And that's when June 9th doesn't mean a lot, right? But could be more to it than that. And so these are the things that I take note of early.
I think there are 3 big ones for me. I think one is like asset investment, whether that's a draft pick or, to your point, cash flow. So if the more the team is invested, the more they think of a player in particular. I think, to your point, this is an easy one, which is where you're playing in the rotation. If you are either starting or first off the bench or second off the bench or whatever it might be, I think that's absolutely a part of this. And then I think there's some other like backstory, eye test kind of stuff. Iowa defensive backs should be balcony level thinkers. Most of them are.
Yes.
Iowa defensive, Kirk Barron's 20 plus years of coaching at Iowa, his defensive backs are extremely well coached. They are smart football players. They know the game at a high level. And that is a great observation about that kind of guy. And I think it's just a good phrase, right? Like, oh, you're a third floor thinker. I just think it's a good phrase.
Right.
And so I think all of that is very much how you can figure something out if it's for real. Now, I think flashing in practice, that can be very deceptive because Jaquan Jackson, not to pick on him, but like Jaquan Jackson last year in camp and in practice always made plays when playing against other people or made plays in 7-on-7. And he did it again last week, and he did it the week before that. Like, he gets into games and it just didn't work. So it can be deceptive based on practice reps. I think there's other things you have to look at to decide how much to buy into hype. And I think it's all these other little things around the edges.
Let's jump to inside linebacker because what I just learned will contradict what I
like just learned as in like live on the show.
I've written, just tweeted it. I get the sense they will consider Jermaine Pratt, who they know. Well, Brian Callahan knows him from Cincinnati. Released today. I imagine is over salary cap. I don't know much about him, and I didn't know. I didn't even know he was released before we went on the air. But that second inside linebacker spot has no front runner or anything to it. And to be honest, I have a piece that I was planning on posting right after that will be revised. I don't care that the second inside linebacker spot is the weakest spot on the defense. It's the 11th out of 11 spots to me. Comes off the field in nickel, so it plays 45% of the time. There's going to be a weakest spot on your defense, and to me, if you're choosing one, that's the one I would choose. Now, I'm not anxious for it to be an Achilles heel, so to speak, but I'd have much bigger concerns about other spots. The Titans have had some guys there that have not been great historically. They went to a Super Bowl. Now, they were 4-3 at the time with Baron Wortham in the spot, who was a great guy, but not a great player by any means. And the only inside linebacker they've ever had who was terrific was Randall Godfrey, who was right after that. And I think was around for 3 years. And that's why the 2000 defense was better than the 1999 defense and probably the best defense that they ever had. But who's the next best inside linebacker to that? I mean, Wesley Woodyard was a good settling force leadership guy and a pretty good player. And I had this conversation with Nick Suss, who
Jayon Brown.
Yeah, well, I mean, they went Avery Williamson, Jayon Brown, David Long, who were three pretty good players, right? Then they went off track with Monty Rice, who was a bust, and here they are. But Nick Suss is very good at pointing this out. Like, you're looking for a ridiculous person in that spot, generally speaking, people that don't generally exist.
Like Fred Warner.
Right.
Yeah.
And Luke Kuechly and those kind of guys.
Yeah.
But you want a guy who could come forward and hammer on the run and turn around and run with what in the modern age are ridiculously skilled tight ends or running backs who are pass catchers. So if you don't find Fred Warner, who there are very few of them, trying to chase somebody who's going to be really good at it is kind of a ridiculous endeavor. And what I think is let it be your semi-weak spot and cover it up with your defensive front and your defensive backfield.
So a lot of stuff there.
And let me say one more thing. I'm probably biased to this because this has been the Titans' approach for the vast majority of the 28 years that I've covered them. And so it's what I know and have come to accept, but I think it's a reasonable approach.
I think it is too. And I think it is okay for it to be, if you had to rank them and you're saying, hey, your best players at which position, I do agree that second inside linebacker is the place where you can get away with less than replacement level talent. To your point, there's going to be a lot of plays where one linebacker's on the field. It's also the position, and I think this is the ultimate point about not tight ends necessarily, but running backs maybe, and guards and middle linebackers. Like, you don't have to, they don't come at a premium in the draft, and generally you can sign serviceable ones for average price points. I mean, the Rand Carthon's maybe his best move of his entire tenure was trading for Ernest Jones in the last minute for basically nothing and flipping him for something, and he was one of the better players while he was here.
But while they had him and we all loved him, they decided the contract that he was going to ask for after the year was something that he would not pay.
Yep.
And that's why they traded him for what they traded him for, because they knew they weren't going to keep him. Now, the one big stab they made at the position was who? Rashaan Evans, who sucked. He was a good goal line and short yardage player, which is not what you want for a first round inside linebacker. And that was a disastrous pick by Robinson and Vrabel.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, a talented athlete, just not the position or the place.
Did not have the head for it.
Don't invest high level resources and assets in the position. It's no different than running back. It's no different than all the other positions that we talk about in terms of how they've been valued by the NFL.
Unless you see an outlier. Somebody here is mentioning Tulloch. Well, Tulloch wasn't a turn and run guy. Tulloch was a good run thumper, right?
Yeah.
But Tulloch in today's NFL, 15 years post Tulloch, I'm guessing, I think he'd have a hard time.
So Jermaine Pratt played for the Bengals. He was a third-round draft pick. He's 6'3", 250, kind of a big prototypical guy. If you're a fantasy IDP guy, you know how productive he's been. I don't think the question is what is he looking for at 29 years old. I don't think he's probably looking for a massive payday. But if you can get him for a relatively affordable price because he's got a relationship with Brian Callahan, then you absolutely kick the tires, and he does absolutely make your team better. And so here's the other thing. I agree with you. If you had a really healthy, deep collection of edge rushers and a healthy secondary, I think they've got talent in the secondary, but we don't know what it's going to look like from week to week. Then I could see saying, whatever, we're fine with, letting Cedric Gray and James Williams learn, or letting, we're going to deal with Otis Reese, who might be a little less than in these two situations or whatever. It's okay. But, Xavier Woods could be really good. Amani Hooker could be healthy. L'Jarius Sneed could be healthy, and they don't have any pass rushers. So if you can go cheap in a moment where it's not normally where you go sign players, June, I think you do it. I think you kick the tires because, again, 1 year, what about a 1 year? Like, who cares? 1 year, 2 year deal, not your money. Go sign him.
No, I'm not against Jermaine Pratt by any means. I think they'll have trouble getting him. I think they'll have better opportunity. I think virtually anybody that comes free now will probably find a more attractive landing spot. But, if an equally good edge rusher came free right now, unquestionably you would take the edge.
What is there? Why do I not have their cap space off the top of my head?
Titans,
do you
have
happen to
like
know?
35, 37, something like that. 11 most in the league. Money's not a concern.
Yeah, use it. You use it. Jair Alexander, of course, cornerback for Green Bay, is also getting cut. So there's going to be a long list of these names. over the course of the next few weeks, and it'll be interesting to see if the Titans go kick the tires on any of them. I can't imagine.
Titans have 30, and it's 11th.
Yeah.
But the Patriots have 60. The 49ers have 46. So
this is a guy. You think this is a guy they overpay for? Not the Titans, but anybody? I don't know if he's that. I don't know if he. I mean, I guess he's good. I don't think he's that good.
I mean, look, the Bengals defense was a big problem last year. If this guy's still any good, I don't know why they'd be bailing on him on June 9th.
Did somebody ask you, would you trade Jeffrey Simmons for Trey? Speaking of the Bengals,
Trey Hendrickson, I would. I mean, the money kind of washes out. You'd have to sign Hendrickson to a new deal. Ideally, that would be a 3-year deal. The thing is, you're giving up a 28-year-old for a 30-year-old. But the guy had 17 and a half sacks 2 years in a row. I'd take my chances that he could sustain it for a while.
You also have T'Vondre Sweat. Like, you have two guys in the middle. You have zero on the outside. Although I do like the size element that they're going for right now. I think it's a secondary philosophy that they're choosing because it's the best one they've got.
Look, you give me a replacement level defensive tackle and plus Trey Hendrickson as opposed to a replacement level edge plus Jeffrey Simmons. I'm going to go with the Hendrickson side of that. Yeah. Wouldn't you?
I think I would. I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was a very interesting question.
That's also, it was a good question.
Because it could be beneficial for both teams. Like
that also,
one of those.
Barton is where the mention of Lil Baby was. Somebody was asking me where I wrote about Lil Baby. On my weekly segment on the game, they were giving away tickets to Lil Baby, and we looked up Lil Baby's size, and Lil Baby's not that little. So unless he's going for like a Led Zeppelin ironic name, I think Lil Baby is poorly named.
I think that is what he's doing.
Is he?
Or
it's no Led Zeppelin.
I don't know the backstory here, unless that was just a nickname given
to him
when he was a kid. When he was a kid, like a small, I don't know, like, isn't it like the movie character in every movie that's called, like, the movie character is tiny and he's like the biggest kid in the block?
Yeah, Curly. Like, you called me Curly.
Right. I don't know. Look, I know a little bit about stuff, but not a lot about Lil Baby.
I don't. They asked me for my favorite song. I sampled the top 5 on Spotify. The best one was about cocaine. It wasn't good, but it was.
You think that would help him with the little part, you know?
Then cocaine keep you a little because it makes you really energetic. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh,
Barton Henley, Lil Baby, aka Big Jeff.
Wow.
Shots fired, and not by me.
You said he could be in the best shape of his life, though. Coming into, we'll see tomorrow.
I mean, I think when you go off and do your own thing,
I would hope
you're going to be.
I would hope
in good shape. Pratt asked for a trade in February. Team Ramrod 27 said that Ramrod I'm going to take as a Springsteen reference. I like that. So he's unhappy there.
I hope it's a Super Troopers reference, not a
Ramrod off the river, as everyone knows.
Team Ramrod. All right, so the thing that will there's a couple things here I'm about to tell you, and they're not going to help you maintaining the girlish figure that we're discussing here, which is, of course, Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. They look, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue at my age, PK, which is still significantly younger than you. I can only go like once a month, maybe twice a month if I'm feeling lucky, because I want that big slab of brisket. I want that American Wagyu beef brisket that eats like a filet mignon. It's spectacular. So go get some brisket, because the only people that know how to cook cow properly are people from Texas. And Shotgun Willie, my main man Bill, Pitmaster Bill, he is from Texas. So go check him out. Only Wednesdays through Sunday, not on Monday or Tuesday. So not today, but just don't ask. Don't say, hey, you want to go grab lunch on a Monday or Tuesday at Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. It's not going to work. And then, of course, Sinkers Beverages, proud supporter of the neighborhood and of Titans and of Predator sports, local Nashville sports for a very, very long time. 40th birthday this summer. We got a big party coming, so stay tuned for more details on that. Great craft beer retailer. It's hot as hell these days, although today it looks like it's not too bad. I don't drink a ton of beer anymore, PK, but when I get done mowing the lawn on Saturday, I need a cold beer. I had a Barrique Pilsner over the weekend. Spectacular. I just want one crushable, delicious, smooth, crisp beer, and there's lots of great ones at Sinkers Beverages. So,
and where is Barrique from?
It's Nashville. It's a Nashville brewery.
And what is Barrique?
Very, very tiny. Very, very tiny.
What is Barrique?
Like what is it?
I want the backstory on Barrique.
Oh, I don't know that one. I'm literally working on a beer project, and I don't know the backstory on that one. Where the name came from?
Yes.
Can you ask me about any other brewery?
It doesn't sound Nashville-y. Barrique.
Hang on. Vent for me here.
Stalling.
Our story.
Team Ramrod says it's Super Troopers, and he's sorry.
Yes.
I want you to go listen to Ramrod
Thank you,
now.
my guy.
Not right now, but as soon as we're done on Spotify, and you got to turn the volume up to 11 and open your windows.
Also,
everybody know you're rocking.
Also, an old reference, but I like Spinal Tap as well. It doesn't say anything about where they got the name. Actually,
come on, man. Mark it to me.
All right. Well, here's what we're gonna do. I'll drop a little. I guess this is not. So I've been working on a documentary series about beer history in Nashville, and one of my favorite parts, and this is why I'm going to do this now live on the air. One of my favorite parts of this is getting to know all these people, but why they came up with the name of their brewery is really interesting to me.
Well, because it's a huge decision.
It is, but it also is an indicator of sort of like how you think, like how you process, how you see things, how you view your own brand in the world. And like the story from Yazoo, the story from Blackstone, the story from East Nashville Beer Works, not as creative there. The story about Tennessee Brew Works, the story about Bearded Iris, the story about Jackalope, like they're all really interesting stories. Barrique is too small, and we're not there in the documentary yet, so I don't.
You got to get moving.
I haven't gotten there. No, you're right. I'm getting close to that part of the. It's a very, very tiny sort of boutique brewery. They do really, really creative and quality stuff, but their Pilsner is awesome.
Oh, you've got to watch this movie I watched where these two kids are making beer. It's part of what they're doing. I have to go into my movies list now and tell you what it is. I hope I didn't take it off after I watched it.
Looks like Barrique was opened in 2018.
Snack Shack. Have you seen Snack Shack?
I have not. No.
Watch this film. I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay. All right. I will check that out. Absolute Simulation is the name of the beer that I was trying. It's a German style Pilsner. It is super, super good. Super.
I would try that.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm getting old. I like sort of. I've kind of started to lean away from the hazies and the stouts and everything, the porters and the. Give me a nice Pilsner, a nice lager, etc., etc. Okay. Do you want to quickly touch on what you learned from James Foster's series about second-year players, Jarvis Brownlee, J.C. Latham, and Trevondre Sweat? What did you learn in going through and helping James through that series?
Well, these guys are good, right? But you think about somebody who is watching every single play and every single detail, and he's grading them very precisely and outside of their excellent area. So you take Sweat outside of like his anchor and run, so specific details of his run stopping. And you go, look, we know he didn't rush the passer great, but I think you're surprised at just how, and he's giving him overall a very good positive review, saying he liked what he saw and he projects him to get better. Then at the bottom of the article, you get to where he's grading him in 5 categories of run defense and 5 categories, 5 ingredients, 5 elements of what those 2 categories entail. And the scores are poor, largely poor. I mean, I'm going to get in there and give you one example. And this is a nibble. Of course, I have to log into my own site. Just a nibble. If you're not a member or if you haven't read this, and this is kind of why you need to be reading a piece like this to get all the way into understanding the texture of a guy like this. But, so his run defense grades very well, particularly his anchor and his double teams. But if you go look at his pass rushing and scores on things like explosiveness and bend and pursuit, they are horrifically bad. And so when the Titans say, well, he's going to be a better pass rusher, this would lead me to where I'll go when I tell, he said quickness. I'm working on quickness. Well, that makes sense because the explosiveness scores very poorly and the pursuit scores very poorly and the quickness is a 14. And this is with 50 being adequate, 75 being very good, and under 25 being poor.
Well, so
he's poor in 4 of the 2, 4, 6, 8 categories.
Yeah, just again, not trying to give it away here. Go subscribe to the website there. But again, this is on a scale of 0 to 100, correct? It's on a scale from 0 to 100, and on the positive sign, anchoring and double teams, you are talking about the 95th percentile and up, elite. And in these categories, you are talking about the bottom 15 percentile.
Pursuit, he scores a 2. Now, you're not expecting a huge guy to score.
No,
super high in pursuit. We're okay. I don't need him that score well in pursuit.
Right.
But you need more explosiveness and more quickness than he's scoring here. And I'm not imagining that those are things. This is why I think T'Vondre Sweat may not be all that everybody chalks him up to be. And if this guy's going to be a huge run defender and a mediocre pass rusher, I don't think he's worth 38 in the draft.
That's what I was going to ask.
James does, and you should go read that.
I think if you tell me he's a 10-year player, but he's a 2-down player, but he's been really good on those 2 downs for 10 years, I would say that 38th pick was worth it.
Well, I'll stop you at 10-year player. I mean, if Titans find a 10-year player, hallelujah. I mean, who's their last 10-year player? It's maybe Simmons, and that's it.
Maybe I should think more like Landry, which is 8 years, 6 years, and maybe that's the better way to look at it. Is
like if you get a career player.
Yeah, if you get a 6 to 8 year window of a really good run stuffer, probably worth it. Now, if you're picking 12th in the draft, that's not the bar. The bar is higher than that. If you're picking top 15 in the draft, you're trying to get a career starter at a position who's actually much better than the average player. So I do think. I think what happened at the top of that draft will be studied. Let's just put it at that, or that round will be studied. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I think I think to your ultimate point though, at the very beginning of this conversation, which is that these are pretty good players. These 3 guys, I think, are going to be pretty good for the team.
Pretty good players, and still the scoring, it's rough. And I think he scores like scouts probably score, and like GMs probably score. So it's really hard to score well.
Right.
It's kind of the message.
All right. So there you go with all of that. I am curious. I want to discuss Anthony Richardson for a second because I find him to be so fascinating. Talent, potential, where he got picked, how much time he played the position in college, his behavior and decision-making in the NFL in a very short period of time. I can see Daniel Jones working for some strange reason for the Colts. And now, of course, he's injured with the shoulder problem and could be out for an extended period of time. You've got a couple of other really interesting storylines in the AFC South with Travis Hunter starting as an offensive player so far for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I believe I was saying on this show for a long period of time. We'll see. Still June. What do you make of, if you're in charge? Now, they're going through an ownership change, obviously, with the passing of Jim Irsay. If you're in charge of this organization, how should you be viewing Anthony Richardson?
I think you should be viewing him as a complete wild card and unknown, and praying about Daniel Jones. I wish I had it handy. Now Richardson on Twitter is all about the injury, and so it's hard for me to go find it. But the number of starts or snaps he's had since high school, is so ridiculously low that unless you're just going to get him out there and let him take his bumps and all of that, which is a hard thing to do, really hard thing to do, considering that Steichen and Ballard, they're on the hook. Now, maybe they get more time even because Jim Irsay's passed away. And one of his daughters is taking over now as the principal owner. And what's her approach and patience level? And is she going to want to clean house if this year doesn't go well and hire and start again? Or is she going to say, hey, this is my first year and I'm going to be patient now and kind of following what my dad was doing? And so these guys have a fresh start with me. I don't know. But I don't like the Colts track at all. And I wouldn't put it past. I think the Titans could pass them this year if Cam Ward's any good.
I maybe I'm the only one who's like just utterly fascinated. So Eddie agrees with me, kind of like, hey, Daniel Jones might actually push their win total up a little bit. I think consistency and dependability and predictability makes Daniel Jones a more interesting option potentially. But from an intrigue level, like if you told me Anthony Richardson goes on to be a Pro Bowl quarterback for the next 10 years with a freakish set of skills, I'd be like, okay, I believe you. If you told me he never played another down in the NFL, I'd be like, okay, I believe you.
I wouldn't believe the all pro kind of.
I didn't say all pro. I said Pro
Bowl. I wouldn't believe it.
I'm just saying, like, any outcome would not be surprising to me with Anthony Richardson, with his career, his track record, but also his talent and upside. It's so fascinating to me. Maybe I'm the only one who finds him.
No, I think they're a very intriguing team for a team that doesn't have a lot of hope of success. So for a team that is, I don't think very much of a playoff contender, the intrigue around them is very interesting. Not quite Browns level, but pretty interesting.
Well, the Colts always get a national intrigue level too, with like the clicks and the websites and the views and the interest. Like it's kind of the opposite of the Titans. They always get a little bit more coverage than they probably deserve. The Titans get a little less coverage than they probably deserve. Although some positive things floating around there about Cam Ward from the national conversation. I'm looking at their win total for right now, and Jacksonville. The Colts are 7.6 for the Colts, 7.7 for Jacksonville, 9 even for the Texans, which is actually well below like 5 or 6 other teams in the AFC. And you got to keep going below the Jets, below the Raiders. You get to 5.8 for the Titans.
Whose are those?
5.6 for the Cleveland Browns. This is NFL.com, basing it off of. Hang on, wait for it. It looks like it's a combination of all of their like win total, make the playoffs, win the division, win the conference, win the Super Bowl, all into one model, and it's the official NFL prediction. So
the Titans are what? 5.6?
5.8. The Browns are the worst in the AFC at 5.6 wins. Titans are at 5.8 wins, and you got to go. Then the Jets, then the Raiders, then the Colts at 7.6, and then the Jags at 7.7.
So I wonder if that model squares. Like if you added all of that up, would it come out to 500?
I would hope. They've got, let me see here. Bear with me. Patriots at 8. That's a lot. Steelers at 8.3. Dolphins at 8.3. Like those are pretty low for the Steelers and Dolphins, honestly. Texans at 9. That's fairly low. 9.1 for the Bengals. You could say low. 9.3 for the Chargers. 9.5 for Denver. Now you're getting to the 11-2 Kansas City, 11-4 Buffalo, 11-6 Baltimore. Nobody over 11. So I would guess that means they square.
Yeah, it sounds low, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the Titans Vegas number is 5.5.
Yep.
So, which I think is the right number. Like if the number makes you say like, oh, I'd have trouble picking that. That's what it's supposed to do, right?
That's how it's designed.
I'd have trouble picking 5.5.
Anthony Richardson will be a Pro Bowler, is what I said.
Yeah,
apparently.
Barton's putting that in stone.
No. Jason says, good to see you, Jason. Of course, Richardson was always a terrible draft pick. He never proved he could throw the ball, and he had no experience. He's only marginally better than Trey Lance. I think he was a way more talented prospect than that. I mean, I think Lenora Sellers at South Carolina this year is going to have a very similar dossier to Anthony Richardson. The difference being 2 major things. He will have started 2 full seasons of college football. And he's like a 5.0 student, which is because the new grades and the new scales, like all the new, you got to give people
5.
But he's a total honor roll student at South Carolina. Super smart, kind of keeps to himself kind of guy. So
there's a whole point added to GPA since I was in school. Whole point.
Well, it started like when I was in high school and I graduated in 2000. Like you could get above a 4.0 because of AP stuff. Right, like AP classes. Like
I don't think AP even gave us. I mean, we didn't really have numbered GPA. I don't think in my high school in 1987 when I graduated. I mean,
is that where is that New Jersey?
New Jersey. Yeah, New Jersey? I mean, I think if somebody asked me what my grades were in high school, I would have said like A-, B+.
Yeah, that's about where I was.
But I mean, I wouldn't have told you. I wouldn't have known what to say numerically.
I was not an A student across the board, and I was not ever a C student. So
I was a 3.4 in college, which I was pretty proud of.
That's about where I was too. Now, my college was far superior to yours, University of Tennessee.
Yes, of course.
The education prowess of the state school of Tennessee, far superior. To what? That what are you, like the 7th or 8th rated Ivy League school? Like what?
Until recently, I mean, we were way up, like on every school, not just Ivy League school. Then we took. Then there was some questionable behavior with U.S. News and World Report, I think.
Well, and then you guys just bent the knee to the administration, you know.
So, can't win. I mean, you can't win with what's going on right now.
No, I know. I'm kidding.
It's ridiculous. But my friends and I had this thing. It was like a Columbia professor told U.S. News and World Report that like he didn't like the way Columbia was reporting to U.S. News and World Report. Now, this guy is making his salary in part because of the way that we're ranked with U.S. News and World Report, and he thinks he's some heroic whistleblower. Like, dude, no, you're dumb. I don't think it was a huge scandal.
You know how hard it is to make Harvard look good, Paul. All right, I want to know. I would like to know. Yeah, glad QC
we both saw that pop a second it came up.
Oh yeah,
we don't need to discuss that any further.
QC said, "Glad to see Paul survive the settle down incident." Number one.
I don't know how we know I survived. I mean, I'm live.
Blink twice if she's not in the room. No, first of all, our wives do not listen to our content. I'm pretty sure. I don't know about yours. No. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But what's funny is that somebody asked me about that. Somebody came up to me over the weekend and was like, and goes, Braden, what did you do to Haley that what did she do when you did that to her? I was like, it wasn't me.
Oh, it was you.
It was Paul on the show.
That story
going like this, like pump the brakes to the missus.
It was more north
down.
The hand was more.
Oh, a pat her on the head. Oh, even
better. No, it's more angled like this.
Like you would talking to like a
all right, let's move on.
4-year-old. I want to know, give me like I want bold predictions here on like the storyline that we are not seeing with these 3 days of practice. I don't want it to be clicky. I just want it to, what's the thing we're not talking about that on Friday? Because by the way, Nick and I are going to be on Friday, not on Thursday this week, because the practice is right during the show on Thursday. I would like to know, what are the things? Do you ever remember a story going into minicamp and it actually coming out of minicamp with like a real meaningful, like an actual story that had meaning and value to the team?
I think that there will be no cancellation of the last day. I think they need it. I think they've got relevant media stuff scheduled that there would be a problem if they did away with that. So that used to be popular to cancel the last day. I don't think these Tennessee Titans can afford not to have it. So I would expect that.
Full 3 days.
Yeah. I really don't know.
Barring an injury, there's really not a whole lot that will come out of 3 days in June that should dictate really much of anything. We should, as long as everybody's healthy, Nick and I should sit down on Friday and be like, all right, we saw this from this person, and we think this person's working in kind of higher in the group, and glad to see so-and-so talking, and Snead's out there and Zeitler's out there. That's all there is to it, guys. I wish there was more to it, but
there's no pads, there's no contact, there's no one-on-ones. So, all the best stuff, you've got to wait until July 23rd, I think, I'm guessing, based on walking it back from the preseason opener.
Yep, late July is when we get real information and real stuff. But enjoy the Twitter videos, enjoy the clips and the posts, and we'll hear from the players. So it should be a lot of fun. Paul, what you got coming up on the website? Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, PK.com.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go revise this inside linebacker piece based on the Pratt potential. And then, a lot of stuff coming out of the next 3 days. I've got a development piece that I am eager to do thoroughly. So since that's such a big key of them, looking particularly at who the assistants have developed during the course of their career. So I would look forward to that, hopefully. And something I've been promising for a long time that'll finally come to fruition, I hope, but I won't speak it.
Okay. Don't jinx yourself. Yeah, like old headline, linebacker, irrelevant position for Titans. New headline, must sign Jermaine Pratt today. Mandatory.
I don't think it's going to be torn up to that degree.
I hear you. All right, everybody, go read the website. Check it out, of course. Go to Sinkers Beverages and support good local journalism. Support good local business. Obviously, Shotgun Boys Barbecue, but not today. Not Mondays or Tuesdays. Make sure you check them out Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. or until that meat's gone.
Set a reminder.
There you go. For PK, I am Braden Gall. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for hanging out. We will talk to you on Friday with Nick and I after all the practices on a different day. So just make a note of that. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah.